It was the perfect weather for a weekend getaway. The sun was out, and there wasn't a cloud for miles. The temperature, though chilly in the evenings and mornings, was in the high 70s that day. A 4-car caravan snaked its way around the heavily dense pine forest through gravel roads until it reached Elm Street. It was a narrow dirt road, barely wide enough for 2 vehicles. The lead car, a Jeep, signaled right and made the turn, followed by a truck, an SUV, and another truck. Approximately 15 minutes later, the caravan finally reached its destination. It was about 11 a.m. when Ty and Mia Lore pulled into the driveway of the cabin in their truck. Next to them was the SUV. In it were the Gutierrez family. Members of the family were Ty's brother-in-law, Jay, his wife Rebecca, and their son Danny. In front of them, in the other truck, was Ty's friend, Vinny Romano, and his wife Paula. Next to the Romanos was the Jeep. In it was Ty's other friend, Stephen Marshall, and his wife Jennifer. The drive took just under 3 hours. Everyone met at Stephen's house and followed him from there. It was a last-minute trip, one Ty hadn't planned for, but was ecstatic when Stephen called with the opportunity. It's not every day someone gets a free stay at a cabin in Big Bear Lake. The cabin belonged to a family friend of Stephen's. It remained unoccupied for most of the year, so his family and he would go there a few weekends out of the year. That time, Stephen brought his friends. Everyone parked their cars and got out. They yawned and stretched while Stephen made his way to the front door of the cabin with keys in his hand. The cabin had 2 floors. That much was evident from the outside. It had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. At the front of the cabin was a huge pine tree. Underneath it was a fire pit with logs around it for seating, a picnic table, and a barbecue grill next to it. On the lot next door were ruins of a burnt-down building. The lot was unkempt and overgrown with tall grass and shrubs. Whatever charred remains of the building was blanketed by moss and leafy vines. Aside from that, there were mature pine trees all around them for miles. "I wonder what happened there?" Ty asked. "Looked like a fire," said Mia. "Well, yeah. I mean, how was the building burnt down?" Ty responded. "Don't know, don't want to know," Mia said. "Ah, you're no fun," Ty laughed. Stephen unlocked the door and waved everyone in. Upon entering the cabin, Ty felt uneasy, as if he and his friends were being watched. He also started feeling ill. Ty was fatigued and had a nagging headache. He endured it, as he did not want to ruin the trip for the rest of the gang, and continued touring the cabin. The cabin looked okay on the outside, but wasn't what Ty expected inside. There was hardly any light at all due to the limited number of windows. Had it not been for electricity, it would be almost pitch black. The interior looked old and dingy, but everything else was functioning. There were cobwebs hugging the corners of the ceilings, probably due to it being unoccupied for long stretches. The wooden floor creaked and groaned with every step. Ty didn't complain though, since he didn't have to pay for lodging. Free was free. On the first floor, the stairs leading to the upper level were by the entryway. The living room, kitchen, and dining area were all on the first floor. There was also a bedroom and bathroom on that floor as well. On the second floor were 2 bedrooms, separated by a hallway, and another bathroom. Everyone brought in their bags. All the couples had their rooms upstairs, except Stephen and Jennifer. Ty and Mia shared a room with the Romanos. The Gutierrez family took their room across from the others on the second floor. In Ty and Mia's room were 2 beds against the wall across the door next to corners opposite of each other. There was a strange tiny door to either a closet or storage area adjacent to the wall next to the Romano bed. The tiny door was by the corner diagonal to Ty and Mia. The door looked like it was made for a little person. An adult would have to get on all fours just to get through it. Ty tried opening the door, but it seemed to be jammed. The doorknob twisted fine. However, it wouldn't budge, so he gave up. Everyone else in the room just ignored it. After unpacking, they all went for a swim. Ty's symptoms subsided almost immediately after he was back outside. He was relieved, but didn't give it much thought, chalking it up to coincidence. Ty and Steven took a quick dip, then went fishing, while everyone else continued swimming. They returned to the cabin after about an hour for lunch. Vinny was sitting on a cooler drinking a bottle of beer. He already had the fire going, so Steven took over the grilling duties with Ty beside him. Everyone else sat at the picnic table. "Grab me one," Steven said, gesturing to the cooler. Vinny got up, lifted the top of the cooler, and grabbed a bottle. He popped the cap off, then handed it to Steven. "You want one?" he asked Ty. "Nope, I'm good." "Thanks," Ty replied, shaking his head. "You sure?" "Yep." "Okay," Vinny said, closing the lid to the cooler, then sat back down on it again. He took a swig of beer, then asked, "Ya guys catch anything?" Steven didn't catch anything, but I managed to get a smallmouth and a trout. "No keepers, though," Ty responded. "Cool. It's all about the fight anyway. What'd y'all use?" asked Vinny. "Spinnerbait," answered Steven, putting a few hamburger patties on the grill. They sizzled as the juices sparked the flames back to life. The smell of cooking meat made his stomach growl, but was muffled by the sound of the grill and people conversing. "I was using a jib. Totally jibbing it," Ty said, dancing. "A what?" "A jib. You know, a jig and grub combo. At least, that's what I call it," replied Ty. Vinny was about to take a sip from his bottle, but laughed at how stupid that sounded. "Got it." Ty was reminded of the burnt-down building upon seeing it again. He asked Steven about it. "What's the story behind that burnt-down building?" Steven took a sip from his bottle, then said, "Not sure. It's always been that way since my family started coming here. I think it's abandoned." "Oh," said Ty. Satisfied with the response, Ty didn't pursue the topic. Everyone ate, drank, and hung out underneath the huge pine tree for the rest of the day. It got chilly as evening came. Mia started getting cold, so Ty went back into the cabin for their sweaters. The same sensations came back as soon as he stepped inside. His headache returned along with the anxiety and fatigue. He fought through it since he was only going to be there momentarily. On his way up the stairs, he was surprised to see Rebecca sitting by herself in the living room. He thought everyone was outside. Ty was mainly talking with Steven and Vinny, but could have sworn Rebecca was with her family at the picnic table. Maybe she came in before him, he thought. Ty didn't say anything and went about his business. He went into their room and dug into the duffel bag until he found both their sweaters, then headed back downstairs. It took him no more than a minute to get the sweaters from the time he saw Rebecca when Ty was back on the first floor again, but she was gone. As he approached the picnic table, he saw Rebecca sitting with Jay and Danny. On the other side was Mia. He handed one of the sweaters to Mia and seated himself next to her. They were discussing their favorite places to eat when Ty interrupted their conversation. "Rebecca, were you just inside?" Ty asked. "No, I've been out here the whole day. Why?" Rebecca responded. "Nothing. It's just I thought I saw you inside earlier," Ty said. "Nope. Been out here all day." Ty told him about how he felt ill whenever he went into the cabin and about seeing Rebecca's doppelganger. He asked if anyone had the same symptoms as he when inside the cabin. They all said they felt okay and agreed anything was possible. but they haven't experienced anything out of the ordinary. The conversation ceased there, but in the back of Ty's mind, he knew there was something strange about the cabin. After dinner, they hung out by the fire, telling stories and talking with each other. Some of them drank, while others didn't. It was probably around midnight when they returned to the cabin. The Gutierrezes went to bed. Mia, Paula, Stephen, and Jennifer were still drinking and hanging out downstairs. Vinny was already asleep. Ty wasn't feeling well again and was lying in the other bed. As chilly as it was outside, it was unusually hot on the second floor, so he left the door open. He was sweaty and sticky even after a shower. He couldn't help the feeling that there was some sort of presence standing by the doorway looking at him. Ty eventually fell asleep after what seemed like hours of laying there in his own sweat. He was awakened by beating drums from downstairs. He sat up and rubbed his eyes. It was dark, but as far as he could tell, everyone looked like they were in bed. Mia was sleeping next to him against the wall. The beating drums continued. Ty hasn't seen a ton of westerns, but something about it reminded him of Native American drum music. Though he wasn't privy to its meaning or purpose, he thought maybe his friends were messing around with musical instruments or playing music from their phones. He got out of bed and followed the drumming to the hallway. It got louder as he stepped out into the hall. Ty was surprised no one heard it as loud as it was. He could see the faint light from below when he got to the top of the staircase. He descended halfway down the stairs, and the music suddenly stopped. From his vantage point, he could see the entire floor below. There was no one there. Ty was about to head back upstairs when the door to the bathroom from downstairs slowly creaked wide open. He turned to see who it was, but saw nobody there except a dark room. He felt an instant chill as all the hair on him stood, and gooseflesh slithered throughout his body. His heart began to pound rapidly. Ty gulped, then quickly spun around, sprinting up the stairs. He misstepped and slammed his shin into the edge of one of the steps. He grimaced as the shock of pain shot up his leg. Ignoring it, he crawled up the remaining steps, then limped back into the room. He leapt into bed and threw the covers over himself. He laid there in cold sweat, not moving a muscle, as he tried to catch his breath. The searing pain from his shin throbbed in sync with his beating heart. Something followed him up the stairs. He could hear every step it took. The footsteps slowly ascended the stairs, through the hallway, and stopped in front of their room. It paused there for a moment. Ty closed his eyes tightly and prayed for it not to find him. It walked into the room, and Ty could sense it standing next to their bed, looking down on him. He held his breath. There was no telling how long it stood there, but Ty thought he was going to die of suffocation. The being finally left the room, working its way back down the stairs. Ty breathed a huge sigh of relief. He pulled down the covers just slightly for some air. His face was drenched with sweat, and he could feel it streaming down his face, toward his ears and pillow. He wiped it with the blanket, only to have the same problem recur again in a few seconds. He could feel the heat generating from the back of his head. Ty's pillow was drenched, and he was disgusted, sleeping on it. He wanted to flip his pillow and sleep on the other side, or even sleep on his side to air out the back of his head, but Ty was too terrified to move. He finally attempted to wake Mia up. Babe, wake up!" Ty nudged her. She stirred, but did not wake up. "Babe, wake!" Before he could finish his sentence, The doorknob to the tiny door rattled intensely. Ty froze. Then something started ramming it from the other side. The noise caused the others to jump out of their slumbers. Seeing that the others had awakened sparked Ty with a little more courage. He ran to the light switch and turned it on. At that moment, there was a loud boom and the door swung open. The women shrieked in fright. There was a moment of pause as everyone looked to see what would emerge from the darkness. But there was nothing. "Someone shut that door!" Paula shouted. They all hesitated at first, but Vinny carefully approached it. Then, when he was within reach, he quickly pushed the door closed, pinning it with his back. The Gutierrez family and marshals came to see what the ruckus was about. "We need something to hold the door shut," Vinny shouted. "The bed!" Ty exclaimed. "Someone, help me push!" Mia and Paula jumped out of bed and aided Ty in moving the bed into the corner. Vinny got out of the way, all the while the others stood looking in shock and confusion. "What happened?" Jay asked. There was a moment of silence while everyone was still trying to catch their breaths. Then Mia finally said, We, she gulped, then continued, "We were all sleeping when all of a sudden something started trying to open that door." "Did you see what it was?" Rebecca asked. "No, when Ty turned on the lights is when that door flew open. We didn't see anything come through though. I'd hate to imagine what would have happened had there been no light," Mia responded. "Come on, Mia, let's get out of here," Ty said, grabbing the pillows and blankets from the bed. "Wait, where are you going?" Steven asked. "We're gonna go sleep in the car. Something strange is seriously going on with this place. It feels off," Ty responded. "We can switch rooms, or you can sleep downstairs if you like, but don't go outside, it's too cold," said Steven. "We'll take our chances with the cold. Mia, grab some warm clothes. We're getting out of here. Some of y'all saw firsthand what happened. I don't think it's safe." "I didn't want to say anything at first, but what's going on with this cabin, Steven?" Steven took a moment to gather his thoughts, then spoke. "It's probably Frankie." He took a deep breath, then continued. "Frankie is the name we call the being, entity, ghost, or whatever it is that resides here. Frankie never actually harmed anyone, and I've never seen what it looked like. Most times, we just hear footsteps or doors closing and opening. But Frankie has never been aggressive. This is the first time it has ever behaved like this." "Why didn't you tell us? And why are you talking about it like it's a fucking pet? I don't care what it is or why it's acting that way. I don't have a good feeling about this." "You're right. I should have said something sooner. And for that, I'm sorry. But if you want to leave, then I won't stop you." Mia quickly packed some of their warmer clothes. Ty grabbed a flashlight and made his way out to their car alongside his wife. Jay's family went back to their room. The Romanos spent the rest of the night with the marshals in the room downstairs. It was cramped and cold, but the blanket and extra layers of clothing made it bearable in the truck. Ty had difficulty sleeping after experiencing all the events that took place. But he was relieved he didn't feel sick anymore. He and Mia eventually fell asleep from exhaustion. When he finally came to, the sun was barely coming out. Ty's eyes were blurry from sleep, but could see the condensation on the windshield. There also seemed to be streaks running down it. He adjusted his seat, bringing it up from its reclined position. Ty rubbed his eyes, and when he looked up at the windshield, what he saw turned his blood to ice, and his heart sank. He glanced over to the passenger seat. Mia was dead, her throat ripped open, and a coat of red covered the entire interior of the truck and windows. The corner of Ty's eyes caught the glimpse of a fierce-looking creature in the rearview mirror where his reflection was supposed to be. It had a massive and long head of hair, a set of horns, and fiery red eyes. Its snout was crusted in blood. On the windshield was a message that read, "We are Frankie, and we send our regards."